everyone, welcome back to our channel. Today we have a question for you guys. And the question is, are you chasing or attracting love? The answer will change everything. So in this video series, we are going to focus on the energy of connection.
So today what I'm going to do is I'm going to take you through a little journey of what I call John's chasing journey.
Yes.
I did not have any idea about relationships. I left home before my 18th birthday. I drove to the end of the driveway. Mom and I had an argument. I had a full-time job and a car, and we had an argument, and I drove to the end of our driveway and had no idea where I was going. Mom said, if you don't want to live by my rules, you have to leave. So I left. She didn't think I would leave. But anyway, I left. I drove to the end of the driveway and didn't know where I was going. But I had met this somebody, and that was part of my chasing journey. So I'm just going to walk you through my life as a guy chasing after girls. Okay, my first real crush was Phyllis. Phyllis was a person that was my next door neighbor. We lived on a farm, and so she lived on the farm next to us. And I had a hard crush on Phyllis, and that was in high school. Right, riding on the bus with her every day, that sort of thing. But I was in the friend zone. She knew I was her little buddy.
Some of you guys know about the friend zone.
The friend zone. So I was in the friend zone, but I was crushing hard, and I followed her around like a little puppy dog all over school and stuff like that. But we were just buddies, and that was my first crush. So that was my first experience at chasing. Yeah. So now let's move on to my first love. Debbie was my first love. And when we started hanging out, I was hung up on her, and I'd follow her around as well. And I think I probably, clung on a little too tight, and she broke up with me. But she always kind of kept me on the outside. But I always thought, if I was just nice enough to her,
you'd get something,
I'd follow her around. We'd get back together. Right?
Yeah.
So I did that for quite a little while, and. She needed a ride out west, and we were going out for my brother's wedding. And I said, "Oh, sure, come on the van with us. We'll give you a ride." So that's like she had no interest in being with me whatsoever. But here's me still chasing.
So did you know that she had no interest at all, but you were just kind of hoping?
Just a hope.
Okay.
Just living on hope.
Okay.
All right. So moving on from there, we can go to my first illusion. Wendy was my first illusion, and that's when I left home. The other two were while I was still living in my parents' house. But Wendy was my first illusion. See, I had a real crush on Wendy, too. And when I left home, I'd sitting at the end of the driveway, and I'm going, Wendy is at the cottage. I can go hang out with Wendy at the cottage. So she said, sure, you can stay at the cottage. That's great. And meanwhile, she's meeting with guys and going out with other people. But I'm at the cottage, and I'm just waiting for her to notice me, and that didn't work out at all. So my life progressed. Okay, I moved out of the cottage, and I got my own apartment, and I met a lovely young lady. She was my very first real relationship.
So before you go to the real relationship, I just want to point something out. He's given a really good example about chasing, and all of this is happening before he actually became an adult. And some of you may say, well, it's teenage crush situation happening. Just to keep this question in the back of your mind, how many people do you know out there that met as teenagers in high school, married, and stayed together? Mm-hmm. Just keep that in the back of your mind. Okay.
All right. So I'm moving on to my first relationship with Marlene. Right, we went out for about a year or so, and I was crazy about this girl, but I was her first relationship too, and most of the time first relationships don't always pan out. So she broke up with me. Okay. But I thought, I'm pretty sure she made a mistake. So she moved to what? She moved to London. I was living in Harrison, Ontario, and she moved to London. And I'm thinking, all I have to do is I'm going to impress her, and she's going to take me back. So
there might be some people out there who knows John. Okay.
Okay. So I quit my job. I give up my apartment. I load everything in my car, and I drove to London, and I knock on Marlene's door. She opens the door, and all she says is, "What are you doing here?" and it was not a very friendly, what are you doing here? I'm going, well, I'm moving to London, and I thought I'd just let you know I'm going to be living in the area. She goes, that's nice. Why are you here? And I went, crushed pretty hard here. I'm
Chasing.
still chasing, right? So that kind of set me off on a different path. That's where I was always a pretty good drinker, but then my alcoholism kicked in. I started drinking a lot more, and that was my first obsession. Now, there was a lot of, I can go on for quite a while, but there was a lot of different chasings going on. I'd go into the bar, and I'd be buying drinks for people, that sort of, ladies, and that sort of thing, and it was always me chasing. I didn't have any game or anything like that. I'd get too drunk, and I'd buy a girl a drink, and she'd look at me like, are you kidding me? I don't want to be around somebody like you. So, what? So my alcoholism, that lasted for a number of years, right? But in the meantime, while I was drinking, I met my first wife. And she met me in the backyard of the house next door. We lived in townhouses. She lived in J, and I lived in K. And she actually noticed me sitting in the backyard in a lounge chair on a Tuesday afternoon getting drunk. And I guess she found that attractive. So we had a a bumpy marriage because of a lot of drinking involved, that sort of thing. And when we finally had our third kid, well, we had three wonderful children together. When we finally had our third one, our daughter, she'd had enough of me, and she asked me to leave. Right, so I moved out of the house, but I never moved very far. I was always around, and I spent 10 years chasing after, pining over and hoping
yeah.
that somehow I was going to get this woman back into my life. And she.
But you still had your obsession.
Oh yeah, my obsession was running things.
Right.
And when I went to treatment, that's when for the first time and the only time, when I went to treatment, I learned that I was stuck in this obsession. My counselor said I had to confront that obsession, so I went and had a conversation with her, and I asked her to come if we could give it another go when I was sober, and she said no, there was too much water under the bridge, but we could be friends, sort of thing. So that's 10 years of chasing, right? So I had to find a different way of doing things, and I had no idea about Ezrah, about law of attraction, those sort of things. But a friend of mine said, you know what, the best thing to do is to write a letter to the universe, or to God, or whatever you want to call it. Just write a letter, and in that letter, state what you're looking for in a woman. And because I've been in a number of relationships, not relationships, but had met quite a few women in sobriety as well, and there just wasn't any connections whatsoever. So I wrote this letter, and I put down a whole list of things that I was looking for. And he said, okay, he said, now just tear it up, crumple it up, do whatever you have to do. Yeah. He says, but just get rid of it. So I actually burnt the letter. It wasn't long after that I started going online, and I was meeting several women, that sort of thing. But then I got online, and on Plenty of Fish, believe it or not, and this woman messaged me, and we started talking, and she was typing, and she'd asked me a question on the messenger part of that, and I'd start typing, and I am a horrible typist. But I'd be typing, and all of a sudden she'd type another question. So now I'm backspacing, right? so she says to me, she says, "Are you busy?" Oh no, I just suck at typing. Why don't you can give me a call? I said, I don't have star 69 because I have children that would abuse it. I don't have call displays, so you can call me, and I won't have your phone number. So
Right.
she called me, and we talked on the phone for an hour and a half, 2 hours that night, and then she's sent me called me first thing in the morning, and invited me over to her place that evening. So I drove there that evening, and I didn't know what she looked like or anything. She didn't have a picture online.
Yeah, so I'll just have a little side note there on this. At that point, when I messaged him, my sister wanted me to get online. I was out of my marriage as well, and I was on my own with my two kids. And I really didn't have any interest in dating at that point. I have gotten to the point where I wasn't chasing either. I was done with chasing. I was fine with being by myself. I was fine with defining who I was again outside of a relationship that wasn't suiting me anymore. And I was just good. But she thought I wasn't. So she thought she would get involved and hook me up on Plenty of Fish. So one of the criterias I had around it was you don't get to post my picture, and you don't get to really post where I live either. So I thought to myself that I was setting it up for failure, that no one's going to actually bother me at all, right? So anyways, I saw his picture with a friend and he was laughing in the camera. And I thought, oh my God, he just looks so happy. So I just, not wanting for a hookup or anything, I just said, boy, don't you look as if you're having fun? And I sent that message and that was it. Literally, that was it.
So I answered her right away because I was online all the time. I answered her right away, and nothing. I'm waiting.
Because that was it for me.
That was it. She just left it. So
Yeah.
she can tell you what happened. It was like a month later.
Yeah, I forgot I had the account with Plenty of Fish. Because as I said, I wasn't chasing anymore. I wasn't looking for a relationship or anything. I was just good. So I forgot I had this account with Plenty of Fish. And just a little backstory there. I did also write a letter to the universe, to God, whatever you guys want to call it. I had written a letter about 3 months before that as well on my end, asking for certain things. And then after that letter, I got rid of it and I got to the point where I didn't want to chase anymore. So this is how this came about. So anyways, I forgot I had the account on Plenty of Fish, and my sister asked me, she goes, so how is it going with Plenty of Fish? And I'm like, oh my God, I forgot about that. I think I need to go and take my profile off because I just can't be bothered, right? Mm-hmm. So that night I went on and I opened up the profile, and for those of you who are around our age, you will know who you are. There was a little thing with a little man jumping up to show that you had a message. So I opened it up and there was this guy jumping up. I'm like, oh shit, I have a message. So, excuse my language. So,
That's okay.
I was like, oh crap, I have a message. So I opened it up and it was him. And I'm like, oh my God. So I sent him a message. I'm like, I don't know if you're going to get this. I apologize, but I really didn't go back on for a month or whatever, but I'm about to delete my profile. So if you want to chat, it's not that I kind of, fluff you off. I just kind of forgot kind of thing. Mm-hmm. So that's when we ended up talking after that.
Yeah. So we did the messaging and the phone call, and I drove out to Milton because which was curious that actually even came across, because that was outside of you set up your parameters and how far you want to travel. And that was actually outside of, so I actually shouldn't have even been able to get the message, I suppose, but I don't know how it all works. But anyway, I go to her place, and she had second thoughts, and because I'm knocking on her door. It's March, in the middle of March, and it's freezing cold
outside,
like -20, and I'm knocking on the door, and I can see her peeking around
and
the corner.
And I'm hiding. So I've decided at this point I don't want to let this strange man into my house, even though he's just coming in for a coffee. I'm like, what the heck were you thinking? But anyways, I'm hiding behind my front door. There's a wall, and to go into the powder room, and I'm hiding behind this wall. And I'm like, I'm sure he can't see me. Didn't know he could. He's peeking in and he can see me, and I'm hiding. And eventually I'm like, you know what? Suck it up. Go open the door. There is nothing. If you think something is going to go wrong, then guess what? It's going to go wrong. And I had no idea of law of attraction by that time either. Mm-hmm. And so I decided, okay, so I kind of, sucked myself in and went to the door, and I opened the door, and here he never left my front door after that, just so you know, because here he is. So
and it was a surprising thing for me because in a very short time, Allegra and I, when we met, she was beautiful. She just took my breath away. So
thank you.
I was already smitten just walking in the door. Couldn't believe that she was single. So, but anyway, I was thrilled. But as I got to know her, the more I reflected back on the list, the more she was checking the boxes. so to speak. And that's law of attraction. See, I didn't know about law of attraction, but that's how that actually happened. So that was me chasing versus me attracting. So
Yes.
I think now what we're going to do is we have a few questions for Ezra. So we're going to bring Ezra up to the forefront. That may take a little bit, a few moments while Allegra does her thing
Yes.
and brings Ezra to the forefront. And we're going to ask a question or two of Ezra.
Just give us a minute here. We're newbies to this. We're
Yeah.
just winging it. So not everything's going to be tight in the videos, okay?
Mhm.
Just bear with us. Okay. All right, I'm going to get Ezra to come to the forefront. We are here.
Welcome back, Ezra.
Good to be back.
So we're online. We're doing a YouTube video, and I just gave them a synopsis of my lifelong journey on chasing after women. So we're going to be talking about the energy of connection, and so just wanted to ask you a few questions about attracting love and the energetic alignment.
Yes?
So the first question is, why do some people attract love so effortlessly while others struggle so much?
Usually, from our perspective, the attraction of love in an effortless way is from a point of acceptance. The one that is wanting to attract love has come to a point of acceptance of themselves and others, meaning that they were able to identify things in themselves that worked for them, that they are okay with, and things in themselves that they would like to see reflected from others to them. And that can be either in the physical or the emotional, energetic point. Those who seem to have a harder time at attracting love usually go about it in a way of looking for others to fill that void in them that they have refused to work on, to look at and improve on. The alignment of themselves. So until there is an understanding that they are who they are and that is okay, and that they themselves are love, then they will choose to chase others into and almost keep them hostage in trying to fill that void that they alone can fill. Another asking,
Yeah, so what are some of the common blocks, energetic blocks that keeps love away?
one of the things, or a few things we would point out, would be not understanding that you are love, you are worthy of the love that you are wanting, not understanding that in order to get the love you are wanting, you need to define what that love looks like to you, not to the other person. Sometimes humans would get together with each other and they will talk about what they would like to see reflected from the other, but forget that in order to have the reflection of the love that they want, they need to identify what they would like for within themselves, not based on what the other is going to project to them. Another aspect of not being aligned with the love that you would like to experience is not understanding that people are the way they are, and you have a choice as to whether or not you would like to interact with an individual based on the energy that they are putting forth in the now. So you may look at someone that is physically attractive, but the energy that they are putting forth is a little off putting. But because in your mind and in your misalignment of not paying attention to energy, the physical overrides the energetic output. And as time goes on, when your energy shifts or your knowing becomes more apparent to you, you realize that that energy that the other is putting out is not what you would like to align with, but you do have the choice to turn inwards and reflect on what you would like to have come forth in your experience. Another asking,
Yeah, so how can someone shift their vibration to attract the love that they truly want?
it depends on the vibration that is being put out. For example, in your story before, in terms of chasing, you thought that you would attract what you wanted based on the physicality of the relationships. For in your reality at that time, there was no knowledge of energetic output. So you were not tending to your energy. You were not tending to your emotional health. You were not thinking highly of yourself. You were looking around at what others were doing in their relationship, and that was your standard for your relationship at that time. But as time went on, you started to realize that it wasn't working. And even though you were not aware of exactly what it is you were wanting, your turning point was recognizing that it was not working. And as soon as you get to that point of understanding that you would like to experience more, something that feels good, something that gives you appreciation from the other, that is where the knowing of what you would like to have comes about in that point of turning. Another asking,
Yeah. Does the way we feel about ourselves really impact the kind of partners that we attract?
yes, it impacts everything. And in the topic of relationships, whether it's love relationship, friend relationships, it does play a huge part in who and what you attract. And that may be if you are in a relationship already or you are seeking a relationship. Sometimes people are in relationships for years, and in their mind they believe that the relationship has changed, but what has changed is the energy that you yourself are putting out. So what you are seeing coming back is just a reflection of what is happening with you energetically. And also remember that your emotions does dictate the energy that is being put out there. Another asking,
Yeah, one final question. Is it possible to attract a specific person, or is that going against alignment?
it is not going against alignment per se. For from our perspective, if you are really not knowing what it is you want, we would advise to go general in your wanting. Meaning, have a look at the general aspects that would make you happy. And as you find appreciation in those thoughts, then you can go a little bit more in detail as to what you would like to see coming forth from a partner or a friendship. But it is not a bad thing to be detailed, but you will need to be in at a point in your vibrational work where you are able to hold space for others in the state that they are currently. For if you are not able to hold space for others where they are currently, you will go about chasing the other to give you what you want. But if someone is not there emotionally or energetically and you are holding your space of alignment, you can see that misalignment in the other. And then you can say to yourself, either that person is not ready for me, or I have moved on from that thing that they are offering. And then you turn your attention to the things that you are wanting, and what two things happen in that area. One could be that there is a moving on or a separating of the relationship, or there may be a turning around, a gradual emotional turning around, because in terms of alignment and emotion, the one that is consistently in alignment with what they are wanting and choosing are the ones who will usually turn their reality of what they're experiencing into the thing that they want. So if you are holding steady to what you want in your alignment, in a place of love, appreciation, and acceptance, you will find that the other has no choice but to either reflect that when they are around you. They may reflect something else when they are with others, but when they are around you, there is that wanting or that mirroring of the love, appreciation, and acceptance vibration. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Yep.
Perfect. Another asking.
I think we're good for today. Thank you so much for joining us.
We appreciate the opportunity immensely, and it is our hope that someone somewhere may begin to turn their relationships around with the looking of it from the standpoint of alignment, appreciation, and love. For in those three components, there is nothing you cannot be, do, or have. Until our next conversations. Good day.
Good day. And she's back.
Hi.
Yeah. So that was our beginning of the series, Energy of Connection.
Yes.
We're going to be doing more videos like that as we go along.
Yes. We have a few questions and on different topics. So what's going to happen is, like, this is a relationship. We may do one on money. We know that that is something that others, you guys out there have questions on, just different things. But we will definitely come back around to the relationship part, because we know that is also an important thing for you guys out there. We will ask for you guys to like, subscribe, and in the comments, let us know what you think of the video. If there are questions that you guys would like to have answered or have us address on our next relationship segment, please put it in the comment, and we will answer to the best of our ability on our next relationship video. Hopefully you guys liked this segment again and you got something out of it. Anything you'd like to add?
Well, thanks for joining us.
Thanks
This has
for
been
joining
fun.
us. Take care. Bye.